Hi everyone, my name is Courtney. I write under the pen names Lyra Parish, and I'm one half of the USA Today best-selling duo Kennedy Fox. And today is Monday, which means it's time for another Q&A Monday. So excited, guys. Like, y'all have asked me so many more questions, so like the series is just gonna go on forever, but we're bringing it back. I have not read these questions beforehand. Like, literally, when I read these questions out loud, it's typically the first time that I've ever read it. So I just kind of go with the flow and I'm answering it like in real time. I'm just randomly gonna pick, this one looks short. It's from Heather and she says, how do you go about taxes? I'm not giving tax advice. We have a CPA, a certified public accountant, that handles our taxes. Every month we do an expense sheet, and that expense sheet essentially gets turned into our accountant, and we pay our taxes for the month based on that. So we are paying taxes throughout the year instead of paying it all at once at the end of the year. But yeah, we have a certified public accountant. He is amazing and he has saved us a lot of money over the years, and I can't say enough good things about hiring a professional. They are held to a standard by the state. There are certifications that go with that title, along with things that they have to do on a regular basis. We do have an LLC. We are an S Corp status, so things may be differently for you if you're doing a sole proprietorship or if you are just like a regular LLC without the S Corp classification. I know that like taxes and accounting and all of that is my thing because, you know, as an accountant on the corporate level, sometimes I just ramble all these facts and people are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Start over. Let me know if that answered your question. This one comes from Terralyn and she says, this may be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's been nagging me for a few weeks. Oh my gosh, when did you submit this? January? Man, it's been nagging you for months unless you've asked someone else. It says, for the purpose of taxes or royalties paid in January 2022 for a book published in September 2021, count towards income earned in 2021 or 2022. So you will pay taxes based on the amount of money that you received during a fiscal year. And so that means the money that you received in January through December 31st, but really like the beginning of January, because you know Amazon sends the payments out but then they don't actually post. That's what you will pay taxes on. So for example, the books that we released in November, the royalties that we earned will not count toward 2021 because we will not have received the money until 2022. So you pay taxes on the money that you received. So I know that some of the distributors are like 30 days out, Amazon 60 days out. There's some other ones that are even longer than that. There are some places that are on a quarterly basis. So when you receive it, that's when you're paying the taxes on it. This question comes from Kayla and she says, in your most recent Q&A Monday, you said that one book a year isn't enough for a self-published author, given that how many books do you think is the minimum to publish in a year? Does that number change if you don't intend to quit your day job? I think that it depends on what your goal is. Is your goal to make an extra $5,000 per year? For me, when I was working full-time and I didn't have a writing partner, I released 4 books per year. And I'll tell you, that was a lot. And I did experience burnout right at the very beginning. It was hard because I didn't know everything that I needed to know. I was still learning in the process of writing while trying to figure out publishing and also working a full-time corporate job. 4 books was hard, but it did help me build my reader base pretty quickly. If I could have released more books, I think that I would have had an even larger following. You only have so much time in a day, so you can only do what you can do. Once you figure out what your goal is, then that's how you determine how many releases you want. If your goal is to just write as a hobby, then sure, release 1 book per year. It's not gonna hurt anything if you release more or less because you don't care about how it does. Your goal is to just write and put it out there in the world. Mission accomplished, right? If your goal is to make money, then I think that you need to release more. And at the beginning, when you are a newer author and you have 15 or less books, you make a bulk of your money on your front list. Every time you release, you should be making more money than you previously made, because you have more books for other people to read and to enjoy. And so at the beginning, it's your front list that makes you all the money. Once you become established and you have a large backlist is king, and backlist is what feeds your main royalties. And of course, you'll see the spike each time you release, but the bulk of the money is coming from most of the books you've already published. The books that you're doing promotions on, so new people can find you to pre-order the books that you have that are upcoming. I think once you figure out your goals, then that will determine how many books you should release. I don't have a magic number because it's different for everybody. I knew that the more books that were written and released, the quicker my backlist would grow. Once my backlist grew, then, you know, my front list would feed my backlist. And then essentially I would hopefully eventually be able to quit my job. And with Kennedy Fox, because we released so much, we built our backlist very quickly. We are now at the point where our backlist makes a lot of money. Our backlist together makes more money than our new releases. Eventually, when you get X amount of books, that's what happens. That's why it's good to continuously release. I would say that consistency is king. Whether you release 3 books per year or 4 books per year or 8 books per year or whatever, I think being consistent is one of the most important things as an author. I know people who have promised books and promised books and promised books, and they don't ever come. And so readers lose faith in them because they don't trust that they are going to release these books that they announce. And so being consistent allows you to build trust with your readers and allows you to cultivate an audience who will eventually just pre-order or buy whatever it is that you write. That was a really long answer to that question, but I hope that it was helpful. The next question comes from Blair, and she says, "This might be a strange question, but how do you care for your hands? I write as well, and sometimes my hands ache, especially the tips of my index and middle finger. Do you have any hand-wrist self-care to keep your tools of the trade functioning properly?" My fingers don't ever really ache. It's my wrists that hurt. And I do have carpal tunnel braces that when my wrists are super, super achy, that I will wear to bed because it's the only thing that kind of relieves the pain that I experience in my wrists. I also use one of these things when I'm sitting at my desk, and it's kind of like a neoprene like wrist rest, and that sometimes helps with the positioning of my wrists so they're not like a T-Rex. There are some hand stretches that when I was doing yoga and working out more regularly that I would use that I did find to be helpful, but for the most part I'm not the best at taking care of myself. Instead of preventing forest fires when it comes to my hand pain, I kind of wait until the forest is like burning down and then, you know, decide, oh, I need to wear these braces, or I need to start doing stretches, or I need to ice it, or I need to stay off my laptop for a few hours because it's really not helping. I'm sorry that you're going through pain. Last year, or maybe it was 2020, I started practicing with dictation so I could give my wrists a break because it does sometimes hurt. And like, we have cell phones and we're always like, you know, this with our cell phones, which is not helpful either. I have watched hand stretches on YouTube before, and I will go and see if I can find those. And if I can, I will put the links down below in the description, and maybe that will be helpful. And a reminder that I need to probably start using them again because these things are only going to last so long. Got to take care of them. The next question comes from Lauren, and she says, "Where do you find affordable editors?" Facebook. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Facebook. I get it. Alessandra Torres Inkers group on Facebook is so helpful. There's a number of authors that are at all different levels, and if you need a recommendation for anything, you can search that group and someone's probably already asked the question, and then just start reaching out to editors and ask them, you know, what their prices are, if they do sample edits beforehand, and see how you like working with them, you know, see how the sample edit is and things of that nature. You'll know that I have been called a Slytherin more than once because I have told people to purposely put errors in their document that they send for sample edits to make sure that the editors are catching it. Because if they don't, then don't hire them. Editors are not regulated for self-published authors, and people can just call themselves an editor. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that you are using someone who has been recommended by another author, using someone who has experience editing, and also someone who is going to do what they say they're going to do. I've found the easiest way to do that is to put known errors in docs. Not a lot, just a few. You keep the key, you send it to the editor that you're testing, see how they do. If they catch all your errors plus some, then great. If your basic errors that you slipped into your doc did not get caught, then move on and find someone else, because anyone who calls himself an editor should be catching basic issues like commas being removed, or words being slightly misspelled, or a word not being there, like a basic word, like an of, or a the, or a quotation mark missing, you know, things of that nature. They miss those, don't hire them, move on, find someone else who finds all your errors plus some. Decide based on their availability and their pricing if that's the person that you want to work with. You can also find affordable editors on Goodreads. There are groups where there are editors, and you can test all of them too and find people that way as well. But for the most part, Facebook recommendations, like people saying this person's an amazing editor, here's their prices. And then you could also look in authors' books that you enjoy reading, and typically they have their editors listed on the front in the copyright page. So that's another way to find editors. Affordable, I don't know if they're going to be affordable, but you discuss pricing and stuff beforehand. And that's such a touchy subject, because I'm like, don't pay $2,000 for an edit. That's ridiculous. Don't do it. That's outrageous. I would never pay that much money for an edit, ever. No, just not happening. I do know people who have paid that much, and they could have probably spent $800 and got 2 rounds if they would have just shopped around and found someone who may have even edited better. Vanity editors, people who have edited big authors, are not going to sell your book. You are going to sell your book. So don't think that you need to have this editor who has this name who edited for so-and-so who's #1 on New York Times. Like, you don't need that. I promise you, you don't. But you do need an editor. So shop around, find someone who's affordable, who actually is catching errors, and then go forth and conquer. This next question comes from Co, and it says, did someone ever steal your work that was published online? No, not that I know of. I don't believe that we have been plagiarized, but I can tell you that if I ever find out that we have been plagiarized, that will be my personal project. I have lost time with my family. I've lost time with my dad. Because I write so much, I've lost a lot of time. So if somebody could be so scummy to steal those words that I spent my life on, spent my time on, spent, you know, my heart and soul on, for them to steal that, I would not stop. So no, nobody's done it yet. And I'm just saying, they better never do it. People should write their own books. I've missed too many things in my life because of the books that I've written, and so I would take that extremely personal. And I think this will be the last question for today. It comes from Artemis. What advice would you give to someone who wants to publish but has been told that the market, especially romance, is oversaturated and it would be a waste of time to publish? I would say that whoever told you that has no idea what they're talking about. That yes, it may be saturated, but I don't think it's oversaturated. I think that there is room for everybody in the space. Readers don't just read one book and then they're done. They read multiple books. Some readers read multiple books in a day. There are many people out there who read over 500 books in a year. A lot of people don't just read the same books over and over. They want new stuff. They want things that grab their attention. I think that the market is saturated. I also think that there is room for everyone. And I've seen authors who have broken out on their second release recently. It goes viral on TikTok and they become the next big thing. I don't think that you should listen to those people. They don't know really what they're talking about. And I think that if you have good marketing, good branding, your package as well, your book is well written, you've got a nice blurb and cover, and you are meeting readers' expectations with happily ever afters, and you have a story that grabs people's attention, I think that you can do really well. It is a lot harder today than it was 10 years ago. But starting today is gonna be easier than starting 10 years from now. And that's what you have to think about. Like, yes, there are a lot of authors out there, but you know what? There's a lot of authors who are not writing anymore too. They just don't want to. They're burnt out. They're giving up. They're not meeting their own expectations, or they'd rather focus on their family, or whatever the case is. Like, there are authors always funneling in, and there are authors always funneling out. And so it's kind of like a rotating door. And sure, it's saturated. It was saturated when I started publishing in 2014. It's going to be saturated in 2025. It's going to be even more saturated in 2030. But you can't let that limit you, because you just never know what's going to happen. The time to start is now, and you will be so happy that you did, because there's so much to learn when it comes to publishing. And the sooner you start, the quicker you learn, the more books you release, the larger your backlist becomes, the more readers are waiting with bated breath for your next book, and it eventually snowballs. And you can't snowball if you don't ever release. You can never make it to that next step if you listen to all the naysayers. A lot of people who say it's oversaturated, they created a bunch of pen names, wrote a bunch of shitty novellas, stuck it into Kindle Unlimited, didn't sell any books, and so they're like, it's oversaturated, I can't make this stick. No, the thing is like, you have to have the whole package. You can't really just half-ass things like you could back in the day. You need to have a cover that's marketable. You need to have a good blurb. You need to have a good book. You have to make sure that your book is to a certain level. And if it is, then it will be able to compete with all the other books that are out there that are just as good as yours. You just have to set yourself up for success and go for it. And don't get me wrong, you will have setbacks. You will be frustrated. You will think, oh my God, self-publishing is not easy, because it's not easy. But eventually everything kind of like snaps together, and you're like, wow, I actually understand how this works. I understand how I need to market this book. I understand how I need to reach these readers. I understand how I need to do all these things, and why this book wasn't as successful as the other one. And then you just keep building your knowledge blocks and moving forward. And every time you release, you learn something new and you get better. And I think that eventually, if you keep going, like, things will happen. May not happen with your first book, may not happen with your second. I didn't make USA Today until I started writing under Kennedy Fox. Made Amazon top 100. I think actually today I saw on my Facebook it was number 35 in the Kindle store in April. My debut novel, which released in January, was 35 in the Kindle store 4 months later. Because I didn't stop. I constantly promoted. I was still giving away free books to whoever would read them with my first book. I didn't care. It wasn't about making the money at that point. It was about making a splash in a huge ocean. And, you know, I'd like to think that I did that, and that goal was accomplished. People still contact me about those books. They're like, oh my God, why did you take these down? Why did you do this? And I'm like, because it was my first book and I need to rewrite it. That all comes with time. And you never know what impact your words are going to make on someone. You just never know. So it's kind of like the lottery, like you have to play to win. It's the same thing with self-publishing. You can't make these goals unless you publish, right? So you kind of have to play to win. And I used to we'll go on a small rabbit trail, but I used to always joke with my friends and be like, man, I hope that this book wins the literary lottery. Getting top 100, making thousands of dollars in a day, having the rank just consistently drop, having hundreds of reviews like in the first week. Like, you have to write books and publish them to accomplish those goals. And without the first part, you can't do the second part. So the time is now. F the naysayers. Like 311 says, they don't mean a thing. And do what you want to do. And at the end of the day, if you wrote the best book that you possibly could and you put it out there and you published it and you reached 5 people and they loved your words, that's 5 readers who will probably stay with you for your entire career. And I can tell you that I have some that have stayed with me no matter what I've written under. They read Kennedy Fox. They leave reviews under Kennedy Fox. They send me Christmas cards. Like, this is the type of relationship that I have with my very first readers. I'll always be appreciative of that. And enjoy your debut novel. Oh my God, like, let me not forget to talk about that. Enjoy your debut novel. It's the first book. It's the only time that will ever happen. So you have to enjoy it. I had a lot of people who were like, writing romance, is that your diary? Is that what happens behind closed doors? Oh my God, like so judgy. But now look, quit my job that I had for a decade of my life. I'm writing full time. And if I would have listened to the naysayers back then, the people who were just like, you know, judged me or whatever, I wouldn't be where I am today. That's me saying to just F them. Forget those people who talk smack. I think that is going to be it for this Q&A Monday. If you would like to submit a question, it's on every single one of my videos in the description box down below. And that's all I have for this week. I hope you have an amazing, incredible week. You accomplish all your goals and you write all the words, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye guys.